I thought it would be fun to make a bird bath for the dollhouse. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, we're going to start by building the base of our bird bath. And normally I would use E6000. I couldn't find my tube of E6000 this morning, but I could find my tube of shoe goop. By the way, if you have shoes to repair, this stuff is marvelous. I've fixed several pairs of shoes over the years with it, and it really works. Not that that has anything to do with what we're doing, but it's what I'm using. So I have two items here. I have a toothpaste tube cap, and I have a top to a bottle of root beer. And we're going to glue these together. And since we're gluing plastic to metal, we're going to use one of these clear glues that smells really bad and needs ventilation. So I need to have the window open in here this morning. And I need to make sure that I'm not breathing this for very long. So get that out of the way and do your best to get this in the middle. We are going to be adding stuff over. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to make sure this is centered, and then I'm going to let this glue dry for plenty of time. It takes a while because, like I said, it's one of those glues that takes a while. When this is dry, we're going to cover it with some paper, and then we can paint it and create a bird bath. I'll be back when this dries. All right, my goop has had enough time to get set up, and I did my best to center it. I see it's all set up. I'm off, but that's okay. The next step, we are going to cover this so it doesn't look quite so much like a bottle cap and a toothpaste cap. So I've got wet wipes and paper towels at the ready. I have matte Mod Podge, which I have put in this little container. I'm going to put a little at a time because I don't know how much it's going to take. And this is a piece of white wrapping tissue. You know, the stuff you get to wrap gifts in or to stick into gift bags, whatever. I'm going to put that down in the way. Like I said, this is going to get really, really messy. I'm going to start where these are connected. And I'm probably going to put a couple of coats of this on, and I'll probably only do the first part of the first coat on camera, and then I will continue off camera throughout the rest of the day. Because I don't think you'll need to watch me do the same procedure over and over and over. That doesn't make for fun watching. So I'm just going to be smoothing this on, building it up. I'm going to try and keep this edge as clean as possible. I am going to make a line, probably only one layer on the inside. And I won't be able to add too much at a time. I could probably only do a layer and then let it sit up for at least a half hour, 20 minutes, and then come back and put more on. And I really don't want to go over the bottom too much if I can avoid it. Hopefully I'm staying under camera. You would think after all these years I'd learn to stay under the camera. But what happens is instead of watching the view screen on the preview, I watch what I'm doing and forget all about you guys. I'm talking to you, but I just assume you can see what I can see. All right, so I'm going to let this much dry. I'm going to smooth it down a little better first. Get it smoothed down as best I can. I'm going to cover this up, although I've used most of what's in there. And I'm going to let this dry. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a little more. And I'm going to slowly build this up until I have a surface I like. And then when that dries, I'll come back and we can go on to the next step. So I'll see you then. All right, this is still wet, but I decided to come back and show you what I've gotten done. And it's just been a matter of over the last, I don't know, hour or so, I've come back every once in a while and just added a few pieces of paper here and there until I had a coverage I was happy with. I can no longer see the ridges in the toothpaste cap, and I can just barely see the ridges on the cap, the bottle cap. And then I laid a single piece of paper over the top that was soaked and laid that across. It doesn't touch all the way, and that's fine. I think this is going to shrink a bit as it dries, but I wanted to show you what it looked like wet. And now this will need to dry completely, and when it's dried completely, we'll come back and we'll add a coat of paint. All right, that Mod Podge dried overnight. It did sink a little bit into the ridges, but I'm okay with that. It's got enough texture that that should blend in. Now, before I start painting my final color, I'm going to put a coat of white craft paint on this. It's a nice opaque white, and that will help to kind of tie everything together. That way I've got one color of base, and I've just used some of that blue poster tack to put this onto a chunk of craft stick so that it's easier to hold on to. Just that way I don't have to try and pick it up and only paint part of it and come back while when the paint gets dry. I can just paint everything. If I have some spots at the bottom I missed because of the blue poster tack, then I can touch those up when everything else is done. Now you could do any number of finishes on this. I have something in mind that I think will look really nice with my beachside bungalow. Whoops. But feel free to do yours in a color scheme that goes with your dollhouse or your miniature scene that you're doing. Maybe you're not putting this with a dollhouse. Maybe you're making a broom box. You can do this whatever colors you want, but I just thought a short bird feeder would be really cute. It could go out in the landscaping. This one's going to go up on the one of those porch pillars, the one next to the steps. I thought that would be cute, at least for right now. Until the cat figures out I've put it there, and then I'll have to put it away. So I am going to get this finished. Once I know I've got all of the spots covered, I'm going to let it dry. Once it's dry, I'll check to make sure that I haven't missed any spots, and if I need any second coat, because I might need a second coat on the top part since it was darker. But once I have a nice even white, I'll come back and we'll start adding some color. I'll see you then. All right, now my paint is fairly well dry, and I've got my white still off to the side. I did have this covered, and I've got 3 colors of paint on here. I've got 2 grays, a light gray, which is Anita's Rainy Day. I've got a darker gray, which is Anita's Charcoal, and then I have Anita's Slate Blue, because I thought that would be a good combination. And I've got basically a stenciling brush. I believe I got this at Dollar Tree several years ago. And what I'm going to do, and I'm going to start on the side so that I can hold the top. And I'm going to try and hit, and these will become more blended. And I may have to get a Q-tip out to get into some of these areas. But I'm basically just going to pounce the paint on. And I'm going to try not to hit the same spot on my palette every time. It would help if this brush was just a little smaller. This is the only size I have. And then when I get the sides all done, I'm going to repeat in the top. So let me get the outside of this painted, because this is going to take me a few minutes to get kind of angled in there, and I need to get it up where I can turn it around more and the camera won't be able to see that point. And then when I'm ready to do the inside, I'll come back and show you how this looks. All right, that a couple of minutes and a refill of paint, but I like how that looks. So now I can set this down. I've got the white out just in case I get this too dark, and I don't think I'm going to need it. I did, however, need a cotton swab to get into a couple of little spots, so I do recommend having a cotton swab on hand. You may or may not need it depending on how things go for you. I'll get a little glue in there, and I think cotton swab's going to work better in this spot. Don't try to put your paint on too much at a time because it will just lift off. But I'm going to finish covering the white, and then I'm going to let this dry. When this is dry, I'll come back and we can finish our bird feeder. So I'll see you then. All right, the paint is all dry, and I love how this turned out. And by the way, I wanted gray because it would go on my dollhouse, but looking at this, I think if you painted it with a brown and highlighted it with maybe, you know, did some dry brushing with some, maybe a gold and goldish yellow and a black, you can make a really cool wood grain, wood bark looking piece. So that's another option. I went through my stash of little tiny pebbles and sand that I gathered up a couple of weeks ago, and I found this rock, and I think this will look nice. It'll give the birdies a little place to sit. I've got my UV resin. I've got my light off to the side, which I'll do off camera, and I've got my glove so that I better have two. I only grabbed one. It is so warm in here. I'm not sure I can even get the gloves on and off, but safety first. All right, I am gloved up. I am going to, I think I like that side of the rock better. Get the rock in place, kind of towards the middle. I'm going to put a little bit of this in here. And then I'm going to use a toothpick to kind of move this around just a little bit to make sure that it's well submerged. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to put the light, the UV light onto this for the amount of time it requires. When that's done, I'll come back and I'll show you how it looks, and we'll add a little more UV resin. So I'll be right back. All right, we've got our first layer in, and now our rock is nice and solid. So now I'm going to fill up a little more, not quite to the top of the rock. According to my research, you can use almost 1/8 of an inch of UV resin, and it will still cure without any problems. I have not tried that yet. Go. So I am going to cure this. If I decide I need a little more, I will add that, cure it, and when I get enough water in here, I'll meet you over at the front porch of the dollhouse, and we can see how this looks finished. So I'll see you there. And there we have our bird bath on the front porch of the dollhouse. I love how it looks. The rock is sticking out just enough for the little birds to perch on. And I think it looks great. Be sure and check the blog post for photos and more information. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure and hit the like button, leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.